Hey guys, welcome back to What the Fat. I know I have incredible guests all the time, but this is someone who is near and dear and I absolutely love. And honestly, without him, I wouldn't be here today, literally. So I'm doing this podcast with a very special man, someone who has literally been the rock for our entire family for as long as I can remember. But also, I want to do this not only so you guys can get some value out of some of the things that I've been fortunate enough to learn and understand from him, but also I want this to be something that I can show my kids and my grandkids at some point and be like, how incredible of a grandfather that I had and great grandfather that they have. So with that being said, I'd like to welcome my grandfather to the show. Welcome to the show, Grandpa.
Thank you.
So Grandpa is one of the most incredible human beings. He just came down, so he's down here for Thanksgiving, and you like to come down anyway. You like to visit.
Yes. I like you.
That's good to know. That's good to know. But one of the things I want to first start off, because people, they're probably starting to hear you and they're like, he sounds like he has an accent.
I do.
You do. So let's talk a little bit about you growing up. Where did you grow up? And let's start there. Let's start with where you grew up, because this is actually something, just so you guys know, this might be the first time I figured this out. I've asked this question probably 20 times, and each time it's well, it started in Germany, now it was Italy, then it was France. It's oh, I don't know where, but this might be the actual real one that you guys get. So where did you grow?
That's true. I like to joke around, it's fine. But I was born in and grew up in Genoa, Italy.
And so growing up, you grew up there, and how long you left there at what age with your mother?
After the war, which was when I was 15, 16.
15, 16. And then, so did you join the military there or here in the U.S.?
No. I didn't join the military. I came in the United States in 1952.
Okay.
Which I was 18. Which at that time there was a draft, and Uncle Sam said, which is true, I want you.
He chose you.
Yes.
He chose you.
And I went in.
So I want to talk a little bit about that, but before we do, why did you guys decide to leave Italy and come to the U.S.?
My parents were never, they were not born in Italy. They were not Italian citizens.
Where were they born?
My father was at little villages in between Austria, at that time was Yugoslavia. And now is Slovenia.
Mm.
And my mother was born in Slovenia. As a matter of fact, very close to our First Lady town.
Okay.
Melanie or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. So that's where they grew up.
Yeah.
And then, so what triggered?
What made them to go to Italy?
Yeah.
My father was in the Merchant Marine. Of course, at that time, the Merchant was in Austria, Germany. And during the war, it was in that Merchant Marine.
Got it. And so they came over to Italy.
They came over to Italy because Genoa was one of the largest ports, in that theater.
Got it. And what triggered them to say, when you were younger, to go to the U.S.? What triggered the move to the U.S.?
My father was, as they call it now, missing in action.
Mm.
It was in the Navy, in a ship, and apparently the ship didn't reach port or whatever, and it was missing. So it was just my mother. And at the end, I'm sorry?
I didn't know that. See, I'm learning new things. This is why I'm excited.
You never asked.
All right, keep going.
And at the end of the war, in 1945 or 46, I don't know, you're way too young for you, there was a lot of commotion in Europe, extremely. And she didn't want to go back to her native land because at that time, again, you're going to learn something like the Iron Curtain came down, and she didn't want to go back on the communist regime.
And so what was that transition like?
What do you mean transition?
Like transition from, you're 18 years old.
I was 16 since when this was going on. We stayed in Italy until we couldn't stay any longer. And we came over as a DP.
What's that?
Again, in 1946, 47, DP, the displaced person.
Okay.
And apparently, thanks to a nice president, Truman, I don't mean any allegation, I mean, he signed a special, what they call when the president sign a...
Like an order, yeah.
Yeah, like an order,
Yeah.
And for us to come over. Not us only, it was about 20,000 people.
And you were 18?
When in New York, 18.
So how is that transition like? Because like one of the things I want people to take away and relate to is like, we live in a time now where people are afraid to like leave an hour away from their home to go to school or leave an hour away to do something. You left an entire country at 18 years old to come to the US with no plan, no understanding of like, hey, where we're going to live, what we're going to do. What was that like?
You also got to understand, I grew up through a war.
It's true.
A big war. They call it, next to the biggest war, a big wars. So we were displaced. All through Europe, there was a lot of displacement. And there was, in America at that time, and I still say even today, was great. And was a place that everybody wanted to come in.
And so you and your mom came over and you were 18. What did you immediately do? Like, how did you guys live? Like, where did you work?
My mom spoke fluently 3 or 4 languages.
Oh, wow.
And she found work right away as a domestic. And I went to learn English and to become American. I learned a little bit of English and I went work in a factory.
And is that the factory?
And also work as a waiter,
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, in New York.
Okay, so you lived in New York a majority.
I lived in New York for about New York, Manhattan, actually. Yeah. 3 or 4 years.
30?
3 or 4.
I was like,
that's the accent.
Dang, Grandpa. 3 or 4 years. Yeah. That's awesome. And so you grinded it out. You were working like hard to try and like make something happen. Now, when did you? At what age did you get chosen to go into the military?
Oh my God!
Roughly,
I would say about 24.
24. And I think that's a big point because I want people to really understand that, because nowadays you have these, they call like the millennials, and they like to look at them as privileged or whatever people want to say about them. But in the same token, it's like there was a point in time, like in your upbringing, you were growing up where like you didn't have a choice. Like I can't even imagine right now being in that situation, and with everything going on, all the things that we're doing, and like obviously I would go and do it to serve my country, but you came in. You were only here in the U.S. for 5, 6, 7 years, and then you immediately had to. You had to go off to war, and then you literally just were like.
War. I didn't go to war. I'm sorry.
Well, you went into the military.
Yeah.
You went to train.
Yeah, I went to. Well, I was drafted.
Correct.
Drafted, which is different, and I didn't mind. Actually, I enjoyed it. Again, because of the way was when I was in Europe during the war. So to me it was fine, no problem. I enjoyed it. And that's where I met my future wife.
And I'm excited. We'll dig
grandmother.
My grandmother. We'll dig into her a little bit. I definitely want to talk about her. But one of the things is I want to talk a little bit about the culture of like growing up and how you like your food preferences. Because a lot of people that are listening to this, obviously, are eating a ketogenic diet or low carbohydrate diet. But in Italy, the circumstances might have been slightly different. Where like.
Yeah.
Like talk about what we were talking. So my grandpa and I basically did a podcast before the podcast. Yesterday we were talking for like 2 or 3 hours, and there's so much stuff we could literally have this podcast go on for days. But what you were talking about, like even when you're 10, 11, 12 years old, it's not uncommon to have like a glass of wine with dinner. Is that right?
Yeah, in Europe. Mm-hmm. Yes, wine was like a part of the meal. Right. It wasn't, oh my God, I'm gonna get, no. It was, you eat pasta, you eat bread, you eat stuff, cheese. Glass of wine was not, was normal.
Right. And was pasta a large majority of like your upbringing?
Yes. Still is.
Still is. That's where mom gets it from.
It's in your gene. Once you get used to something, it's very hard to break away. My favorite meal, it's always been a certain type of pasta. Try not to do it, but to be truthful, that's, In Europe at that time, meat, like here during the war, meat was ration. Everything was, it wasn't really easy available, not like today. There was no McDonald's every corner, so, usually it's starches. Starch meaning pasta, potatoes, starches.
Well, one of the things we'll have to do is we have to go back to Italy, you and I, and we'll make a trip back, and we'll explore the areas and see if anything's changed. See if like
as long as you pay, I will go back.
Deal. We'll make it happen, and we'll enjoy some nice wine because you know how much we both love wine. But one of the things to wrap up this episode I want to talk about is like your job. So after you got out of the military, because I think it's very unique the way that we were talking about it yesterday, the way that like jobs are handled now, where like people jump from like for 1 year they work here to 1 year they work here, but like you had throughout really your life 2 jobs that you worked at for an extended period of time. So
I told you.
Yeah, what was the first one? The one
first one was a job with I told you like with Engelhard Industry, which is nice. It's no longer. I was there for 31 years.
It's amazing.
Yes,
it's amazing.
A very good company. But at that time, again, like you were asking, how were you when you were in Italy? How were you part of the time of the particular set of time? And of course, it changes as time goes on. It changes. At that time, in the United States, everybody had the job for 10, 20, 30 years. Easy.
Right.
Easy. People were working in Detroit, cars. 30, 40 years. The father was there. The grandfather was there. The son is going to be there. Yeah.
Right.
So I was there with Angelo for 31 years. Very good company.
Now, one of the things that I'm curious to know and understand is your perspective of like work. Like you came over, and I think this is really going to resonate with a lot of people. Is that you came over, 18 years old, immediately got to work because you had to support you and your mom, but also you've worked up until recently. Like you've worked a large majority of your life. Yeah. What is that mindset like? Like a lot of people get overwhelmed or scared of the concept of work, but like why do you have such a different mentality of it? Like you're like, you know what, this is what I do. Like
again, like we were talking, it's upbringing or the time that you're in this particular time, to me, work was always, hey, you gotta eat. And at that time, nobody was gonna give you anything for free. So if you want to eat, you gotta find work. and I was lucky to find very good work. Everybody had, everybody was working. There was no question. It's not that those times were better than these times. No, mindset, different mindset.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I think your mindset has been passed on generations, because I know everyone in our family knows that and understands it.
Not everybody, but
most of them.
most of us.
But yeah, and I think that's a huge kudos to you, and certainly
Thank you.
And I appreciate that. And I think a lot of people maybe hopefully might be in a similar situation themselves, or like come from that background where they're going to hear your story and understand and go, hey, like, I understand, like, wow, maybe there's trials and tribulations, or how grateful we are to live in a world right now where I'm 26 years old and don't have to be pulled out of what I'm currently doing to go into the military, and I don't have a choice, sort of thing. So I think a lot of it's just perspective.
But you didn't say about my second job.
Talk a little bit about it.
Yes. After 31 years, the company moved away, and I couldn't, because of the family, the children, your mother, everybody, and my wife. She didn't want to move where the company is going to go. So I could have retired, not really, but you don't want to stay home just. So I went to another job that was completely the opposite of any job that I ever done, which I never dreamed. My wildest dream that I was going to do work in a hospital.
Right. And what did you do in the hospital?
In a hospital, it was the major part was patient transport, but also a helper. Because again, at the time I went to work to the hospital, I was not 30, I was not 40, I was not 50. I was close to 60, 55, something like that.
Still working, yeah.
Yeah, so, I wasn't a young kid going in, a candy stripe. No, this old guy comes in, and, but I learned. I learned how to help the nurses take care of sick people, physically actually washing them and everything. And also I learned how to take the people that died into the morgue.
I remember that. I always used to get worried. I was like, Grandpa's around dead people all the time.
Yes. Yeah. And being older, they felt that, of course, everybody else at that time when I was working in my section was the older was about 30. Here I am close to 60. So they figure, well, that person is better off getting somebody that is closer to death than a 20-year-old kid.
Messed up.
Yeah. No, because you got more empathy.
Right.
You got more empathy.
How long were you there?
20 years.
20 years. And you started when you were 55?
Yes.
Amazing.
Well, like I said, 55, 65, 70, I retired, 5 years ago? Because I had to.
Right.
But
we'll talk about that a little bit. But what is something, and it's interesting because you spent 20 years in a hospital of people who are sick, old, and virtually on their deathbed.
Yes.
Is there something that you learned or took away from like your time there of like, I'm around all these people who are at the end of their journey that you could then give advice to someone who's not at the end of their journey?
Accident. Young guys coming in, accident, motorcycle, car, any accident. And your life is gone. What I took away from that, life is not a given. You know what I mean, a given?
Yeah.
I'm not articulate. So you don't take life as, what do you call
For granted.
For granted, thank you. Never do. Whoever's listening, never do. That's what I took away from that.
That's powerful.
But then again, I come from my youth during the war. Because, now we don't have, the people that or the soldier we sent overseas to this war, those people and those soldiers don't take life for granted.
They're grateful every day they wake
Yeah,
up.
because you walk down the street in those scenarios, something could happen. So don't take life for granted.
It's amazing because I talk about this all, and we didn't have this conversation beforehand, but I talk about this all the time, and I get a lot of it from you because we have the same perspective. Is like I tell people every day, start with gratitude. Like when you wake up, I'm thankful every morning when I get out of bed that my feet hit the ground. I'm like, I'm alive, and someone else isn't.
You? How about me? When I wake up, holy...
It's all perspective. Yeah, it's all gratitude, though, right? And
so take it and try to fulfill that day and beyond. Try to fulfill it. You know, that's the best, especially young people. Especially young people.
That's true. Well, I'm fulfilling this day because I'm learning a ton from you, and I appreciate it. I know a lot of people will as well. So I appreciate that. I think a lot of people are going to take away a lot from this segment and understand, like, hey, not only your background, trials and tribulations, but gratitude and perspective. And so I want to shift a little bit and now I want to talk a little bit about grandma.
Yes.
So grandma, I always talk to people, and anytime I give a presentation, grandma is in there because of her story and how she was ultimately the rock of our entire family. And I still think she is.
She was.
The rock of our entire family, of like literally some of my best memories and most fond memories are of all of us together. It's one of the reasons why we're here for Thanksgiving, is like trying to take over that responsibility of like she used to bring people together and was an incredible human being. Can you talk a little bit about how you and grandma met? I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, very simple, like everybody met. Don't even you smiling.
I'm like, I don't know. The way you guys met back in the day is very different from how people meet nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
You're not swiping right.
Yeah. I was stationed in Fort Monmouth, and it's in Eatontown, a little town in Jersey. And of course, like any other soldier, but I was older. Because, again, every place I went to work, I was always the older person. I don't know why. But, so we used to go out with younger guys, and we used to go, not so much to bars, because, again, young, you're in the army, you have to, there was like Asbury Park, which is like Atlantic City, the rides and stuff like that, and that's how I met my future wife. You go around, like, I don't know, today is different. You told me that all the time. Today, there are people, they meet through a cell phone. To me, that's crazy.
Right.
I'm not an ancient guy, but I want to see the person.
Right.
I want to see the person. I want to see how she is, how she acts, But
yeah, it's very different from today. Like, this is.
Yeah, that time was still,
I love that because it's sweet. It's like the story tale ending, so to speak.
Yeah, but again, we go back to, remember at the beginning when I told you, time frame. Different times.
Right.
Different mores, different value, different everything.
Very.
Changes.
So you met grandma, and you guys got married fairly quickly, right?
Yeah, well, within a year.
That's fairly quickly.
Well, yeah, because also I was in the army, so that I wasn't living in the same town.
Okay. And so you guys were in love, got married. One of the things that I want to talk about and kind of go into is grandma's weight. Was she always on the heavier side? Was she not? Okay.
Because of the diet. Now, here comes your part.
Okay. Yeah.
Because of the diet at the time, which was very high in again, pasta. She was Italian extraction. And she was. She wasn't heavy. As you remember, she started getting a little after the birth of the 4 children.
That's when she really started to put on more weight?
Yeah.
Interesting. So talk a little bit about that process. So grandma, it's like her background, like where she came from, what was like a staple of grandma's diet? Like what did a typical day say look like for grandma?
Who was the cooking on her?
Yeah.
Mom, her dad. Her mom was English, part English, so the cooking was mostly English and Italian because of the father. So everything was, again, a lot of starch, a lot of fat. And
Combination of the two. Yeah.
A lot of fat in the sense, not,
Like
meat
butter.
fat, butter.
Butter and potatoes.
Butter, potato. She used to, I loved it too. I mean, my mother-in-law, she used to make like a mashed potato with 2, what do you call it? That's
Sticks.
what, a pound?
Oh, jeez. Of butter?
Of butter.
Oh, that's where Mom and
But it was
Anthony's
good.
get it from.
It was good. The mashed
Oh,
potato.
they're delicious. They're great. It's a heart attack in
Plus,
a bowl, but it's, yeah.
Cheese. I mean, the Velveeta, no, the
Cream cheese?
cream cheese.
Cream cheese. Yeah. So that's what Mom and Aunt Dee made my entire life. They still make. They'll probably make it on Thanksgiving.
And that's why, at that time again, nobody knew about cigarettes were fine. There was nothing wrong with cigarettes.
Doctors were recommending them.
Yes, to calm you down. Yes, so people didn't know what was the effect of that particular diet or whatever.
Right, until it was too late.
Of course.
So obviously her diet was very high in not only starches but also fat, at the same time, and that led to health complications. But before we talk a little bit about that, she had 4 kids.
Yes.
My uncle and my 2 aunts, and of course Mom. Talk a little bit about like them growing up and like what you guys fed them, because I'm curious. Because now we're getting into like epigenetics, and like I'm curious of like what they ate as well.
Well, think about it. They were fed the same things that the mother was fed. I mean, your grandmother was fed. So your mom and your uncle and the 2, again, a lot of butter, a lot of starch, and a lot of stuff like that.
Explains a lot. Explains a lot. But that's what she knew. But one of the things that I think is very different about the time now, and this is what Mom talks about like grandma all the time, but they used to like cook like it used to be a meal. Like
yes,
now
it's another. You
Talk-
brought it
talk
up.
a
Yeah,
little
it's
bit about
another
it.
thing. Let's say even if you make the mashed potato with all that stuff, if you have a small portion, okay. But she used to cook huge portion.
they used to say my grandmother used to cook for an army.
Yes.
Like she's.
And it was only 4 people.
It was only-
Actually 6.
But the reason she ultimately like ended up doing that is because she never knew if someone was going to
Somebody
come
come
over.
in, but still, there was this thing to cook way more. If you go to any Italian, German, even Irish, the old generation, they always, especially in a country with abundance, you cook and you give, on a plate. When the plate used to come in, and you say, okay, I'm just gonna, no, you could fill up the plate, and you gotta eat it. So of course the pound's coming in.
Right. And so, but she cooked a lot, and she enjoyed cooking all the time
Yes.
with the kids. Like Mom is a great cook. She's an even better baker.
Yeah. Another thing, a lot of cake, a lot of cookies.
Oh, So what did Grandma like cooking or baking more?
She cooked more, but she baked a lot too, because the meal wasn't finished until
Dessert.
yes.
You had to have dessert.
In our thing, you said about your grandmother, in our family, we go through the meal to get to the
That's
dessert.
it. The meal's just an appetizer for the dessert.
To dessert.
Oh, and
Again, that's
yeah.
you put on weight,
Yeah.
and you put on,
There's a lot of sugar, a lot of fat at the
yes.
same time.
But again,
That's tough.
by the time everything was realized, that this wasn't that good. Of course, it was a little bit too late.
Right.
But
And
it still happened today, sir.
it's still well. Hopefully, we're starting to see a paradigm shift. I think we're starting to understand, and that's one of our goals. Is like, how do we educate more on it?
But today, can I put that in? It's not a wholesome food.
It's a lot of process stuff.
A lot of process, which actually, opinion, it's worse than the old, the lot of homegrown and stuff like that. I think it's worse.
Yeah, it's very different or difficult to find stuff that's like legit organically grown
Yeah.
from
That's why I think the cancer rate is way higher.
Right. So looking at that real quickly, can you just touch on the day that we all remember where Grandma had to go into the hospital? So Grandma she was overweight. She was like, what was she in her like 200? What would you say, like 250? I forget what the autopsy said.
Yeah.
But she was on the heavier side.
For the size.
Yeah. She was short. She was like 5.
Yeah. If she was 7 feet tall, it would be no way.
She was like average height.
Yeah.
But she had gone into the hospital complaining of back pains, and this was in 2001.
Yes.
2001.
She died in 2002.
She died in 2002.
You want to know why she died?
Well, let's talk a little bit about like she had back pain, stuff like
The
that.
back pain, again, because of your mother, the 4 children. After at that time, that's when her back pain started getting, worse. And sad to say, even because of that, at that time, even today, it's freely, doctor would give you painkiller very, very easy.
Right.
And I won't say she was addicted, but
She took them often.
she took.
And so in 2002, I remember it vividly that it was right before the weekend, she got rushed into the hospital, or she went into the hospital complaining of back pain.
Yeah, because, if you want to know, do you know why?
No, tell me more about it.
No, I thought I told you before. She had the back pain, she had operation.
Yeah.
And they they put not a screw, but a bolt,
Yeah, like a bolt.
Yeah, bolt, to keep them together.
Right.
Apparently, one of them, we didn't know until, later, it went bad. It went bad, an infection. And that infection, by the time they found out what it was sepsis. And if you don't catch sepsis right away, it'll kill you, because it's right in the spine. It's going to go in your marrow, in your thing. It's going to travel. That's what happened.
Mm-hmm. And if you look at our autopsy, it talks about septicemia. It also mentions heart disease.
Oh, yes.
And it also,
Again, because of the weight, and if we go back, her childhood. Yeah.
So do you think, and we'll do another thing on the entire day. We have some cool videos that we shot back when we were in New Jersey talking about it, but there was a lot that transpired the weekend that grandma passed away. She was how old? 61. I thought she was 62. 61. So way too young.
Yeah.
Way too young. Do you think had she have been lighter or not as heavy, there would have been a different outcome?
Maybe. But I think the culprit is still the infection. You know? Yeah, different lifestyle.
She
By
smoked
the
a
way,
lot.
even for me,
Yeah.
you know,
Grandma's
I'm part of that era too.
so much stress.
No,
No,
no
I-
stress. But, you know, I mean, I did have bypass. I did have this, you know, the hip and everything else, you know. So, part of the era.
You're still kicking. You're crushing it.
I hope.
We'll talk a little bit about some of what you
This
had
could be
done.
used in my obituary. I mean, in my...
We got 30 years for that, don't worry.
Holy... No.
I need to have kids first. Just hang on through that. But one of the things I want to talk about in regards to grandma is like people know, like I talk about all the trials and tribulations she's gone through with weight, and a lot of that, like, and I've talked about at length of like how that ultimately has affected like our family,
Sure.
health wise.
Yes.
Because like everyone now has autoimmune disease in our family. But also, I want to jump into her mindset, right? Like, and grandma's mindset was always helping. And I think kind of like what I said in the first episode now in this, but like your perspective and her perspective blended is what I think like I try and bring to light.
She always, believe it or not, especially in this time, my doors were never locked, even at night.
She left everything open.
Yeah.
Just in case
Thank God we
someone
never had, you know, nobody, you know, but everybody stayed at my house and her house. Everybody. All the cousin or whatever, you know,
I remember the house.
including you.
Yeah. And so one of the most amazing things is like we were anything but like the Rockefellers. We didn't have a ton of money, but like even if someone needed something, grandma was there. Like
Yes.
like you and grandma were like,
Yes.
you know what? It's like life's more important. We're here to help.
Yes.
Um,
Again, at the beginning, I told you, you know, life every day, try to live so nobody's gonna curse you when you're dead. You know, try to help. Try to help. It doesn't cost. Not really. It doesn't take away nothing from you. But it might give something to somebody else, and that person might help somebody else.
Absolutely. I love that. Like continuing to pay it forward. If grandma, looking down now, if grandma, you think that grandma could have one thing that she could share with the world, ultimately through us, like going out and helping other people, what would that thing be that grandma would love to share with the world of like, is it something similar to what you said? Like, don't take life for granted?
Yes,
Like,
yes.
same thing.
You know, because like I said with her, when she wasn't sick that day. Actually, I went to work in the morning. She wasn't sick. You know, it was fine and everything. And I was at work and I got a call, you know, he said she can't walk. You know, the poison, you know, the sepsis was getting to the brain. So, you know, and it's not that she was, oh my God, which in a way, you see, when you do good things, in a way, I want to die like that. She died within 2 days. She was fine today, went to the hospital the next day is dead.
It wasn't like a painful, drawn out
No.
process, right?
That's what I want to do. You know,
In 30 years.
in 30 years, whatever. Because I saw my father-in-law, I saw I saw a lot of people in the family getting sick, you know, with cancer, with this and that, and life lingers on, but it's not life. And you don't want to see. So that was quick. As a matter of fact, but you know, it's gone.
It's important. So she's
Maybe, you know, somebody say, hey, you done good, I'll take you.
right. Well, I still think today she lives through all of us. Like, I think one of the things I like to say of it is like her mission and vision of what she portrayed, I like to think radiates through me, through all my cousins, my brother, like aunt, uncles, like hopefully that radiates and helps other people because even though she's not physically here, I think she's still here helping people through
Good
us.
thought. Thank you, and that's a good thought.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think that's really powerful. I love that, and I'm glad that we could share that with people of like grandma, her mission, and like her life ultimately.
Yeah.
Like you guys, and continue still to carry that mission on. So I want to change and go into a last segment of more talking about currently you talking about things that you've learned over your lifetime. You've had 4 incredible children.
And 11.
And wow, I didn't even know. Yeah, 11. I knew that, but like you came up with that very quickly. You had that like in your back pocket. And now you have a great grandchild.
Yeah.
So my cousin had a baby recently. And you'll be around for plenty more great grandchildren. You will. So what have you like watching them? Mom, Aunt Dee, Aunt Lynn, Uncle Pat, like watching them from the time they were born to now growing up, having children, like what are some things you've learned from them? Like what is that process taught you of that like someone else may not experience right now because they're not at where you're at in life, but what have they taught you?
Like everybody else, again, you go back to those things we said at the beginning and in the middle and now. Take life, what it gives you, meaning also children, which is life, and try to help, try to make it better if you can. Not everybody can, but help everybody can, And so at least when you look yourself in the mirror, say, okay, a lot of people say I'm, an SOB, but I know I done this and I helped. Like I told you, change your diaper.
You have. I know.
Again, try just to help a little bit. Not big. Not million. Hey, no. Help a little bit. Right. When you see just a metaphor, when you see an old person that's walking unsteady and there's a step,
help them.
Give them a hand. How much is it going to cost you?
Nada. Nothing. And how much of a difference can that make? A ton. They don't fall, they don't break their hip, and then think of all the negative.
But also, that person said, wow, somebody helped me.
And then they might go forward and help someone else.
Yeah, maybe.
I love it. I love that concept. Now, you've in the past couple of years, and people might see this because your eyes still, you just had an injection not too long ago, but talk about some of the things that you're going through now is like, you get literally, this is why this guy's my hero. He's literally, like you get injections into both eyes.
Yes. I have a macular degeneration.
Macular degeneration. That's where I get my bad eyes from. That's where Steven gets his bad eyes. It's all from you, man. It's all, no.
Yeah, but don't forget, I got it when I was almost 80 years old.
All right, I got time.
I got time.
No, so you have macular degeneration, and so you get shots once a month directly into
every 5 weeks.
Every 5 weeks into your eye.
In my eye, yes, with a needle.
That's brutal.
Well, it's not fun, but again, what's the alternative? Like anything else, Same thing. It's a cliche, but you should push. Again with the hip replacement, with the bypass, but you should always push a little bit. Don't just sit back
and give up.
Yeah, like Danny, my brother-in-law. He's got a mess, like one of my daughters. And I don't see him anymore. He's getting like a recluse in her end. You know your aunt. She's not in.
No.
Okay,
She's here,
that's,
yeah. She's here.
Yeah.
Yep.
So push a little bit. Don't go crazy. Don't go crazy. I mean, but don't take a lane down. We go back to the same every day. Every day, if I wake up, I might see a little less, but I see, I feel, and you go on.
You keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
And so you've had not only the eyes, but you've had a hip replaced.
Yes.
And you've had a heart bypass.
Actually, 3.
3. Okay.
Not 3 times, but 3 bypasses.
3 bypasses.
Which, by the way, when you do a bypass, your hearts stop. They have to stop because they work on it.
Right.
So you're dead. And you go on a heart and lung machine.
Right.
How do you learn all that? Because I work. See, it's funny in life.
It's a full circle.
Yeah. I learned when I worked at the hospital, which I never, in my life, I learned all that. And I was so confident because I saw what was happening. I see the doctor, I talked to the doctor, and it was so easy. Even for the hip. So, I mean, connect the dots.
Full circle.
Yeah.
And so it must have been all that pasta that you had when you were growing up. No. But you're still. I love your mindset and your mentality because you're still You still got on a plane to fly down here.
Sure.
You're gonna walk. We're gonna go to the Italian market later. We're gonna walk around, hang out.
I went on a plane and I look around and said, are these people going to die today? Because I'm in the plane with them.
No.
Nah.
That's good.
Again, you got to take life where it is.
But most people don't. And I love that you're giving that message because most people don't. Like most people that might be at your age are like, you know what? Like, it's just my time. I'm just going to sit back and relax.
Never
You're like you want to go out.
in your business and don't do that.
No.
Try to get them better.
Always. It doesn't matter if you're 20 or if you're 75.
Or 90.
Or 90. Doesn't matter.
Don't ever... And I hope what you're doing is helping your generation to reach 90.
We're going to help you live to 30 more years. So that's what we're doing.
Thank you.
We're working on it. But
it would help your grandmother. If you were around at that time, she'd probably be here today.
I think about that a lot. I do.
So try to work on your mother and on your aunt. My son, I think he's over there.
He's tougher to get through. And my other aunt, she's tough to get through as well.
Yes.
She's tough to get through as well.
But they still, still go on.
So go on. So I love your mindset. There's one last question that I want to ask. Other than because I love throughout this entire time you've been given the message that listen, life's too short.
Yeah.
It's all about perspective. Being at where you're at now, is there anything you look back on in your life and say there's regret or I wish I would have done
Changes?
This? Yeah.
Of course you do. Of course you do. Anybody does that.
Mm-hmm. So to avoid that, say there's someone that's young and upcoming, what would you recommend?
I'm a fatalist. I think that whatever's going to happen, no matter what you do, it will happen. So take it,
Mm-hmm. So someone who's 20, 30, 40, 50 years old listening to this, and like I said, you've been around people who it's amazing coming to visit you because you live in a senior citizen home.
Yes.
And everyone else is they're happy to get up and go play bingo. You're like, I'm out the door. I'm going to do something.
Again, you go back to the same thing.
It's different mindset.
Different mind, but they doing. Hey, go to bingo. Yeah. Because I see a lot of people just staying home.
Right. In their room, they don't leave it.
Yeah. Go to bingo. Yeah, but
So
and also
okay.
you have to have, you gotta laugh. You have to have a little humor. A lot be better. You know, a little humor is good. I'm gonna get paid, right?
Yes,
Good.
of course.
You gotta laugh. You have to laugh. You have to, even in adversity, try to have a little, you know.
Perspective allows you
Yeah,
to see the
yeah.
good in things. I agree.
If a lot of people would do that, we wouldn't have the problem we have. I mean, it's nice to be serious, but not too serious.
I love that. I love that. And so I think overarching advice to young people, and you've always given me this advice, and I appreciate it more than ever, is like, hey, like you want to do something, you're young, like go do it. Like you don't want to be at the end of the road going, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have done this. It's like take those risks, go do it, go have fun, like explore. That's the only way you're gonna learn.
Again, it's cliche, you know. If you have a dream, like they always say, cliche, you know, follow it, try it. Yeah, you might. Most of the time, you're not gonna succeed, but let's try it.
You'll never know if you don't.
If you have a
so.
dream,
Right.
I never did. You know, I'm a traveler. I travel the road. That's it. I travel the road. You know, and but if you do, try it. It's not gonna hurt you. It's not gonna kill you. So you're gonna lose. So you know you don't make it. Fine, but at least I tried.
And you learn.
And you learn. You're right. You learn. You learn. If you try something, you learn a lot. Like maybe I told you, never saw an hospital. I used to hate hospital, and I ended up there for 20 years and enjoy it.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. You know, do it.
It's amazing. Well, I appreciate you more than you'll ever know, and I know that people are going to take away a ton from these last couple of days, they will they'll understand a lot, and I just want to say you've been a huge inspiration, Rock, and like literally I wouldn't be here without you and Grandma. So thank you for being who you are and helping us.
And let me see. Try to help. That probably will help some people. You know, it's health. Try to reach somebody. Even if one person or two, hey, it's a plus.
Exactly. That's what I say that all the time. Just one person's all that matters.
And by the way, he doesn't pay me for this.
Well, I appreciate you, and again, we're gonna have to have you back on next year when you come down, and we'll do this for the next 30 years.
Hey, God willing, I can't.
We will have you.
I'm not sure. You know, like I said, you get up every morning. Wow, a new day.
That's it. Well, I love you, and I appreciate your perspective and everything you continue to do, and I'm super excited to spend the next week with you and just have fun.
Thank you.
Love you, Grandpa.
Thank you the way you are.
Thank you. Boom.